At Christmas Eve service, Mom prayed for reconciliation while texting me, "Don't show up with your girlfriend." My phone buzzed against my thigh right as the pastor said the word peace. The vibration rattled through the wooden pew into my knee, a tiny electric shock in a room full of candles and fake snow spray. Mom was 3 people away from me in the same row, hands clasped, head bowed just enough to look a little extra holy. I could see the side of her face, the crease she gets between her eyebrows when she's burdened. Her phone was on her lap, face down, screen still glowing through the thin fabric of her Christmas sweater. The choir hummed through the last bars of "O Come All Ye Faithful," and while everyone else prayed, I slid my thumb under my phone and tilted it up just enough. "Don't show up with your girlfriend." My throat went dry. The taste of wax and cheap grape juice clung to the back of my tongue from communion. I could feel the heat from the candle I was holding licking at my knuckles, the thin paper drip guard already spotted with wax. I stared at those 7 words like maybe I'd misread them. Mom's voice echoed from 20 minutes earlier when she'd stood up to take the prayer request mic. "I'd like to ask for prayer for reconciliation in our family this Christmas. God knows the situation." People had murmured, and "Yes, Lord," and the pastor put a gentle hand on her shoulder. Now, while the whole church breathed in collective piety, she was hunched over a group chat with God and privately sending me conditions for being allowed to exist at Christmas. For context, I'm 29F, my girlfriend, Lena, 28F, is the girlfriend in that text, and my mom is complicated. My whole family is conservative, church every Sunday, prayer before every meal type people. Also the type of people who think, "Love the sinner, hate the sin," is a loving thing to say. I'm the oldest of 3, the only queer one as far as anyone knows, the first to move out, and the first to go to therapy without calling it counseling with the pastor. We've gone to this Christmas Eve service every year since I was 4. Same church, same plastic poinsettias along the altar, same giant banner that says, "Unto you as a child is born," in gold letters that shed glitter onto the carpet. When I was a kid, I loved it. The candles, the carols, the way my dad's bass voice rumbled when he actually sang. The magic of being allowed to stay up past 9 p.m. It felt like the whole world shrank to that room and that story for an hour. As I got older, the magic got heavier. The sermons turned into long monologues about the darkness of this world and the culture attacking the family. I remember being 15, sitting exactly where I was sitting tonight, when Pastor Dan went on a tangent about the homosexual agenda and how the enemy is trying to confuse our children. I remember my stomach dropping, the way I stared at my Converse and hoped nobody could see the way my ears burned. I wasn't even out to myself yet, but something in me folded up tight and hid in the back of my ribs. I didn't officially come out until I was 23. That's a whole story on its own, but the short version is, I fell in love with my best friend in grad school, had a full-on crisis about it, confessed everything to a different friend who casually said, "So you're queer." That tracks. And then spent 3 months trying to decide whether to tell my parents, or just fake straight for the rest of my life at holidays. Spoiler, I told them. It happened at this same dining table, actually. Christmas Eve, 6 years ago. I'd rehearsed it in the mirror. I'm bisexual. I like men and women. I'm dating a girl. Every version made my tongue feel huge in my mouth. In the end, what came out was, I like girls too. Mom dropped the serving spoon into the bowl of mashed potatoes. Dad stared at me, his fork in midair. My little brother, Nate, blinked like his game console had frozen. My sister, Emily, looked down like she just realized she was on the wrong stage. "You're confused," Mom said first, recovering faster than I expected. "You've been at that secular school and they've filled your head with things. I've always known something was different," I said, my heart racing so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. "I just didn't have language for it." Dad cleared his throat. "We love you," he said, and for a second my lungs loosened. Then he added, But this is wrong. You know it's wrong. That was the template for the next few years. We love you, but this isn't who you are. We love you, but we will not affirm your lifestyle. We love you, but we're praying you'll come back to the truth. We love you, but don't bring it up around your grandparents, you know how they are. Lena entered the picture 2 years ago. She's soft-spoken until she's not, has a laugh that makes my neighbors bang on the wall, and makes the best homemade cinnamon rolls I've ever tasted. She grew up Catholic in another state, so she gets the religious thing in a way that people who didn't grow up with crosses in their living room don't. Her parents took a solid year to adjust, but they are now firmly in the "we just want you happy, come over for lasagna" camp. My parents have met her exactly once. That one time was last Thanksgiving, when I decided that if they were going to keep saying, "We love you, we just don't understand your choices," they could at least try to understand by meeting the person who makes me smile like an idiot at my phone. I told them a month in advance. Sent a careful text. "Hey, I wanted to let you know that I'd really like to bring Lena for Thanksgiving this year. She's important to me, and I want you to know her." Mom replied. "We will never turn someone away from our home. Of course she can come." Which I stupidly took at face value. What actually happened was, Mom greeted Lena with that too bright, too wide smile she uses for people from church she doesn't actually like. Dad shook her hand rigidly, then proceeded to ignore her for most of the day. Every time Lena and I stood next to each other, Mom's eyes did this tiny flinch. At dinner, Mom joked that I always had to do things differently, and Dad said grace with an extra long section about the sanctity of the family as God designed it. When Lena reached for my hand under the table, my whole arm went cold, and then hot. After dinner, Dad cornered me in the kitchen and hissed, "Did you really have to hold hands like that, in front of everyone?" As if we'd been making out on the turkey. On the drive home, Lena stared out the window for a long time before saying, very quietly, "I don't think they like me very much." Something in me cracked open then, and I cried the kind of ugly, hiccuping tears that make you feel like you're going to throw up. Not because I didn't know my parents could be like that, but because seeing it touch someone I loved made it so much harder to minimize. Nina, my therapist, saint of Tuesday afternoons, was the one who suggested boundaries. "What would it look like to protect your relationship with Lena and also protect yourself?" she asked, tapping the arm of her chair. "I don't know," I said. "I feel like I'm stretched between them like taffy. Somebody's always going to be mad." She nodded. "Right now," she said, "it sounds like you're using yourself as insulation between your parents' discomfort and Lena's feelings. That's a lot for one person to hold." I laughed weakly. "So what, don't see them?" "Not necessarily," she said. "But maybe you start saying, 'This is what I will and won't do,' and you stick to it. Even if they don't like it." Which brings us to this Christmas. A week before Christmas Eve, Mom called while I was in the produce aisle comparing the price of grapes. I braced automatically when I saw a Mom on the screen. "Hi, honey," she said, voice sweet with something that wasn't sugar. "I wanted to talk about Christmas Eve." My stomach clenched. "Okay," I said, tossing a bag of carrots into the cart. "We really want you to come," she said. "It would mean so much. Pastor Dan's theme this year is reconciliation. I really feel like the Lord has been putting our family on my heart." I could picture her hands pressed to her chest, eyes tilted upward like we were on a Christian TV broadcast. It's a practiced tone. She's used it my whole life when she wants something to sound holy instead of manipulative. "I was planning on going to Lena's family service," I said carefully. "And then maybe coming by yours after." Silence on the line. "I just think," she said slowly, "that if you were serious about reconciliation, you'd make being with your own family the priority." "I am serious about it," I said. "I'm also serious about not pretending Lena doesn't exist. She's my girlfriend. I want to share Christmas with her too." Mom sighed heavily, the kind of sigh that comes with 20 years of guilt attached. "You know how your father feels," she said. "About that. He's trying. We're trying. But bringing her to the service is just a lot. For him. For me. For everyone. So what are you asking?" I said, even though I already knew. "We'd really like you to come alone," she said. "Just for the service. We can talk about things after. I don't want your relationship to be a distraction from what God wants to do." I stared at a pyramid of oranges, my mouth suddenly tasting like pith. "You're asking me to choose," I said. "No," she said quickly. "No, sweetie. I'm asking you to make a small compromise. For the sake of the family. For the sake of reconciliation." I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. "I'm not doing the thing where my queerness is welcome everywhere except anywhere people can see it," I said quietly. "Why do you have to make it about that?" she snapped. "Why can't you just come and focus on Jesus? Because Jesus isn't the one who throws a fit if I hold my girlfriend's hand," I said before I could stop myself. The pause on the other end was glacial. "We are inviting you," she said finally, each word clipped. "We are making the effort. The least you can do is meet us halfway." I swallowed. Nina's words came back to me. "You are allowed to say no, even if the other person thinks you're being unfair." "I'm not coming without Lena," I said. "If she's not welcome, I'm not either." Mom inhaled sharply. "I didn't say she wasn't welcome," she said. I said, "You said you didn't want me to show up with her." I cut in. "That's the same thing, Mom." Her voice went cold. "If you choose to stay away," she said, "that's on you. I'm sad you're putting your relationship above your family, above God. But I can't make you do the right thing." We ended that call with her crying and me pacing in my kitchen, my hands shaking so badly I dropped a glass. It shattered in the sink, and the sound startled me so much I yelped. When I told Lena later, she pressed her lips together, eyes shiny. "I don't want to be the reason you don't see your family at Christmas," she said. "You're not the reason," I said immediately. "Their ultimatum is." Still, the guilt formed its usual knot behind my sternum and settled in. In the end, I told Mom I'd come to the Christmas Eve service alone, but I would leave right after and spend the rest of the night with Lena. It felt like a compromise I could live with, not because I agreed with their terms, but because I wanted to see my grandparents, who would be there, and because some masochistic part of me still hoped that maybe, just maybe, Mom would soften when she actually saw me. Which brings us back to the pew, the flickering candles, the text. "Don't show up with your girlfriend." My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I could feel my heart beating in my fingertips. Around me, the congregation murmured amen, as the pastor wrapped up the prayer. I typed, "I told you I'm coming alone. Please stop texting me this while you're literally praying about reconciliation." I didn't send it. I erased it and replaced it with, "I'm already here. Alone." My phone was still in my hand when Mom peeked when I opened, checked hers, and then glanced down the row at me. Our eyes met for half a second. She gave a tight, tiny nod. My stomach twisted. The rest of the service blurred. I sang the carols on autopilot. My voice sounded like it was coming from somewhere 2 pews behind me. The candle wax dripped on my fingers. I didn't feel it until a hot drop hit the back of my wrist and made me flinch. Nate elbowed me when I didn't laugh at one of Pastor Dan's corny jokes about Santa. Emily kept her gaze fixed on the lyrics projected on the wall like they were subtitles to a movie she didn't want to miss. After the final hymn, everyone blew out their candles and the room filled with that weird mix of smoke and perfume. People hugged, shook hands, said Merry Christmas, like they'd invented it. I tried to slip out, but Mom intercepted me in the aisle, putting a hand on my arm. "Don't rush off," she said. "Come say hi to Grandma." I followed her to where my grandparents were perched on their usual pew like 2 small, anxious birds. Grandma hugged me tight, smelled like powder and peppermint. Grandpa patted my shoulder and told me I was too skinny. The way he always does. Either of them knows I'm gay. Mom likes to say, "It would kill them." Like my existence is a cardiac event waiting to happen. When the grandparents drifted off to talk to someone else, Mom turned back to me. Her eyes were red at the corners, mascara smudged. To anyone watching, she probably looked like a tender, emotional mother having a heartfelt talk with her daughter. "I'm proud of you for coming," she said. "I told you I would," I said. She sighed. I wish you hadn't made it so hard." I stared at her. "I made it hard?" She winced. "That's not what I meant," she said quickly. "I meant this whole situation. This situation being me existing as a lesbian?" She flinched at the word. "Why do you have to label yourself like that?" she whispered. "You're our daughter. That's all that matters." "If it was all that mattered, you wouldn't care who I love," I said. My voice came out slightly sharper than I intended. Nate, standing a few feet away on his phone, flicked his eyes up then back down. "Keep your voice down," Mom hissed. "This is a church." "Yeah," I said. "If only there were a place we could talk about love and honesty." Her jaw tightened. "You're being cruel," she said. "On Christmas." I laughed, a short, brittle sound. "I came here alone because you asked me to," I said. "I sat through a whole sermon about reconciliation while you were texting me ultimatums. And now I'm cruel?" "I didn't send you ultimatums," she said. "I asked you respectfully." "Don't show up with your girlfriend isn't respectful, Mom," I cut in. "It's controlling. It's humiliating." Her eyes filled. "I was trying to protect your father," she said. "You know how he is." I felt that old familiar shuffle in my chest, the one where my feelings moved to the back of the line to make space for Dad's. "Why is protecting him always my job?" I asked quietly. She blinked, thrown. "It's not," she said. He's under so much stress. Work, the mortgage, everything going on in the world. And my existing as myself is too much on top of that," I said. Her mouth opened and closed. "You know that's not what I mean," she said. "Why do you always twist my words?" I thought of all the times she'd said that to me. As a kid, as a teenager, now. Any time I repeated back what she'd said in a way that made her uncomfortable, suddenly I was the one doing acrobatics with the truth. "Mom," I said, feeling my throat tighten. "I'm going to Lena's now. We have dinner with her parents." She exhaled, the kind of breath that says everything. "So that's it," she said. "You breeze in, tick a box, and run off to your alternate life?" Alternate life. Like my queerness was a TV show I only watched on weekends. "This is my real life," I said. "All of it. You're part of it. So is Lena. I'm not switching masks every time I cross a threshold anymore." She looked genuinely baffled. "I raised you to know right from wrong," she whispered. I don't understand where we went wrong." The thing about therapy is that sometimes it gives you answers you didn't really want. I could see exactly where they went wrong. I could give a PowerPoint presentation about it. But standing in that church foyer, watching my mom look at me like I was a math problem she couldn't solve, I realized saying all of that to her right now would only be for me, not for us. "You didn't go wrong," I said, surprising myself. "You did what you thought was right. And now I'm doing what I think is right. That's all." She blinked, taken aback by the lack of accusation. For a moment, I thought that might open a tiny door. Instead, she said, "God's truth doesn't change just because the world does." And I felt the door slam again. "Okay," I said, because I could feel my composure starting to fray and I didn't want to cry in the middle of the foyer. "I'm going to go." "Will you come by tomorrow?" she asked quickly. "For lunch? Everyone will be here. It would mean so much. You can bring a friend, just maybe don't, be so obvious about it." She said it in a half whisper, like we were conspirators instead of mother and daughter. A friend, I repeated. You know how your grandparents are, she said. We don't want to give them a shock. I pictured myself sitting at the table tomorrow, introducing Lena as a friend, laughing too hard at something Nate said to disguise the fact that my girlfriend of almost 2 years was being erased in real time. I pictured the look on Lena's face at Thanksgiving when Dad pretended she wasn't in the room. I'm not coming tomorrow, I said, and the words felt like stepping off a ledge. Her face crumpled. You're choosing them over us, she said. I'm choosing my mental health, I said. And my relationship. And not lying. We never asked you to lie, she said. Yes, you did, I said calmly. You just call it not making a scene. Her jaw worked. I can't do this, she said, shaking her head. Not here. Not now. I'm going to talk to Pastor Dan about this. He'll know what to say. The old panic flared, visions of being ambushed in his office, of kindly interventions, of being prayed over like a demon needed to be cast out. Then, weirdly, the panic faded. Talk to whoever you want, I said. I'm available to talk when it's not about convincing me I'm broken. She stared at me like I was speaking another language. Maybe I was. Merry Christmas, Mom, I said softly. Really? I hope you have a good day tomorrow. I turned before she could answer and walked out into the cold night air. It hit my face like a wake-up slap. I stood on the church steps for a second, letting the chill sink into my cheeks. The sound of carols drifted behind me as people spilled out, laughing, their breath puffing in little clouds. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Lena. How's it going? Do I need to kidnap you or are you escaping on your own? I laughed out loud, the sound surprising me. On my way out now, I typed back. No kidnapping necessary. Save me some potatoes. Always, she replied, followed by a potato emoji and a heart. In the car, I sat with my hands on the steering wheel and let the adrenaline shake itself out of my fingers. I could still hear Mom's voice, still see her face when I said I wasn't coming tomorrow. Guilt slid in, automatic as breathing. You're hurting her. You're ruining Christmas. You're the selfish one. Nina's voice nudged in too, quieter but there. Whose job is it to manage her feelings? I breathed in, held it, let it out slowly. By the time I pulled up outside Lena's parents' place, my chest felt a little less constricted. The house was lit up with warm yellow fairy lights. I could see silhouettes moving in the kitchen. The smell of garlic and butter hit me as soon as I opened the door. Lena met me in the hallway, wiping her hands on a tea towel. Hey, she said softly. You okay? I didn't answer right away. I just stepped into her and pressed my face into her shoulder. She wrapped her arms around me without asking for details. Her sweater smelled like cinnamon and laundry detergent. My body, which had been held tight like a coiled spring all evening, finally sagged. After a minute, I pulled back. She prayed for reconciliation, I said, and texted me don't show up with your girlfriend during the prayer. Lena's mouth tugged into a sad half-smile. Of course she did, she said. Oh, babe. We ate dinner with her family. Her mom insisted I take seconds. Her dad told the same bad joke he tells every year about Santa going to therapy. Her younger brother teased Lena about burning the rolls last year, and nobody made a passive-aggressive comment about all this trauma talk. At one point, Lena reached for my hand across the table, and my whole body braced automatically. Waiting for the hit, for the sigh, for someone to clear their throat pointedly. Nothing happened. Her mom smiled and passed us the salad. My eyes stung. I blinked hard and focused on my plate. Later, when we were lying on the couch half watching some cheesy Christmas movie, Lena traced circles on the back of my hand. You sure you're okay not going tomorrow? She asked quietly. I know it's a big deal, skipping Christmas lunch. I stared at the tree lights reflecting in the TV screen. It feels like I swallowed a rock, I said. But I also feel like if I went, it would be like biting my tongue until it bled for 3 hours. And then spending the next week in Nina's office trying to unknot my spine. That sounds not fun, she said. It's not just about fun, I said. It's about… I don't know. Every time I go under their terms, it's like I'm agreeing with the story that my relationship is something shameful. And then I spend weeks trying to convince myself it's not. I'm tired of starting from scratch every January. She squeezed my hand. So this is you, changing the story, she said. I guess, I said. Or at least refusing to read the old one out loud. I'm writing this now, a day later, sitting at my tiny kitchen table with cold coffee and a half-eaten cinnamon roll. I didn't go to my parents' lunch. Mom texted in the morning. We're all here. There's a place set for you if you change your mind. I stared at it for a long time. My heart did that hopeful little jump it always does when she throws out the possibility of changing my mind. I typed thanks. I'm going to stay here today. I hope you all have a good Christmas, she replied with a single thumbs up. Nate sent me a picture of my empty chair at the table with a plate of food in front of it and the caption, "Missing you, sis." I don't know if Mom saw him send it. I don't know what conversations are happening in that house right now with my name in them. Part of me is grieving. Not just missing them, but mourning the version of my family I wish I had. The one where reconciliation means meeting in the middle, not me crawling back alone. The one where my mom's prayers are about softening her own heart as much as mine. Another part of me feels oddly proud. This is the first Christmas since I came out where I haven't spent the day dragging myself through other people's expectations, where I haven't left their house hollowed out and buzzing. I made food with Lena. We video called her grandparents. We took a nap. I didn't have to translate myself for anyone. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if my relationship with my parents will shrink, or harden, or slowly stretch into a shape that can actually hold both me and Lena without bruising us. I don't know if Mom's version of reconciliation will ever include accepting that I'm not a prayer request gone wrong. What I do know is that last night, in a church full of candles and carols, my mother asked God to fix our family while telling me not to bring the person I love into the room. For a long time, I would have taken that as proof that I was the problem. That if I could just be smaller, straighter, quieter, everything would be fine. This year, for the first time, I felt the mismatch and didn't internalize it. I saw the gap between her words and actions and thought, that's on you. And I walked out the door. It doesn't feel triumphant. It feels sad and necessary and grown up and messy. It feels like lighting my own little candle somewhere else, not because the big official ones are bad, but because they were never really meant for someone like me. So yeah? At Christmas Eve service, my mom prayed for reconciliation and texted me, "Don't show up with your girlfriend," at the same time. This year, my answer wasn't to fight or beg or twist myself into a shape that fit her prayer. My answer was to go where I'm actually allowed to arrive as I am. Maybe that's the closest thing to peace on earth I'm going to get right now.